Yo, what is good, guys? It's Board Gamers Goon back at you guys again with the Raw review. Sorry, my voice is a little hoarse today. Um, so it started off with Bray Wyatt in the ring, cutting a little promo saying it was the beginning of the end. He had a chance to save us from domination. And that they took his sword away and they shoved it into his heart. But he's still alive. He's still the same God he's always been. And he's here to cast judgment upon all the guilty, being Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, Roman Reigns, and Finn Balor, the foreman that he fought last night. When he said Roman Reigns, there was a number of boos here. He said Roman was going to be the first one that he punished. Then Roman Reigns would come on out. Roman Reigns would meet Wyatt in the ring. Wyatt would have a little snicker at Roman Reigns here. Roman would take the mic away from Wyatt here. He'd do that little stupid smirk he always does. And he said that this is why I'm the guy. And then he hit Bray Wyatt. Something you usually don't see there from Roman Reigns is that it was kind of like a heel persona, but it really wasn't. Nothing really too big. The match here started off pretty fast, with Wyatt hitting his sister Abby, or trying to hit his sister Abigail. That wouldn't happen. Roman Reigns would try a Superman punch. That didn't happen. Then Roman would hit a clothesline onto Wyatt, sending Wyatt to the outside of the ring. Later on in that match, Wyatt would do that little spider crawl thing. Got Roman Reigns shocked for a minute. It would give Wyatt the advantage for the moment being. Later on, Roman would hit a Superman punch on Wyatt, where Wyatt would kick out and roll out of the ring before getting speared. And then Roman Reigns would end up hitting a drive-by onto Wyatt. And then Wyatt would completely no-sell it and go back and hit a huge clothesline, putting both of them out. They'd both end up back in the ring before the 10 count here, before a series that featured a Superman punch and a spear would allow Roman Reigns to get the victory. So nothing crazy here. The Eater of Pins, the one that never wins, Bray Wyatt, lost to the man that's being pushed to the moon and back over 1,000 times already in his short career. That feels like it's been way too long already. So it's really something that you could have easily expected them to go with here. Then we got to see Enzo and Cass in the backstage being questioned here about being attacked. They said they didn't know who the attackers were. He mentioned, I don't know what Corey Graves was talking about with Angle and all this stuff. And Cass got kind of upset at the fans for thinking that it was him. And in this promo, Big Cass seemed very, very unmotivated. He seemed unmotivated the entire night. We'll get into some more of his segments in a moment. But the next segment was Bliss and Kurt Angle backstage. Kurt was on the phone, and then she was interrupting him, saying she wanted to be congratulated on winning, and that she was done with Bayley. Bliss wants to have a celebration of her life, just like last week was the Bayley, This Is Your Life. She wanted Alexa Bliss, This Is My Life segment. Kurt Angle surprisingly said, that was a terrible segment last week. It was absolutely terrible, something I didn't think they would actually allow them to say. There's a couple things on this show that kind of surprised me. And Kurt here, he said that Nia Jax was going to be having a title shot later on in the show. Then the next segment had Elias Samson in the ring. He asked who wanted to walk with Elias Samson, and that a leaf on the highway inspired him to write a song. He mentioned that the Lunatic Fringe would come on out, or he'd mentioned about the Lunatic Fringe here, and then Dean Ambrose would come on out here and beat Elias up before The Miz would come over the big screen promoting his celebration later tonight, which I got surprised about. And then that would allow Samson to hit him with a swinging neck breaker. And then you have Dean and Kurt in the backstage area, where Kurt told Dean Ambrose he had to leave for the night. He didn't. He ended up coming back, but we'll talk about that later. And then Samoa Joe comes out saying that he wasn't scared of Brock and he envies Brock and wants everything Brock has, and that he wants his schedule, being able to leave whenever he wants. He wants the ability to scare people. He even wants Paul Heyman and the Universal title. Then Heyman comes out, puts over Joe, and then he says that Brock doesn't fear Joe. He says Joe likes it. He said that Joe likes it, that Brock doesn't fear him. Heyman says he worries for living as a Jew. That was something that I was very surprised at. Lesnar eliminated any concern here. He said he eliminates any concern with Lesnar coming out and backing it all up. He goes back over the fact that he put Balor over 2 weeks back. He said at Great Balls of Fire that Joe's worst case scenario is Brock, and Great Balls of Fire, he gets concerned by Joe, where Joe tells Heyman what will happen. Then Joe talked to him in the corner for a little bit, and then he put him in the Coquina Clutch. Something I was surprised at. The 8th segment here was backstage segment with Kurt and Joe, where Joe said, "Get out of my way." That led to Seth Rollins and Joe having an altercation where they ended up being able to have a match later on this evening. Then we had Shimamaro versus Slater and Rhino here, somebody that hasn't been on the show as of late. Cesaro would pull Rhino down from the hot tag here as Slater was about to tag him in, leading Slater to turn into a bro kick, allowing Shimamaro to win here. And then they took to the mic for something I don't think either of them should do, saying that they were a smart team and how they won was smart. They talk about winning last night, and he asked who's all happy that the Hardy Boys came back. And then he says, you know who's not happy? The Hardy Boys aren't happy they returned. So that was kind of interesting. I don't like either of them on the mic, though. Atrociously bad. No enthusiasm. TJP and Neville here were in the back, and TJP asked for his title match after 2 months of doing Neville's dirty work, and TJP would end up being told by Neville that he just has to get through Ali for Neville to finally get to speak with Kurt Angle. TJP versus Ali was a very short match here, TJP obviously being the winner. Neville would end up scaring TJP on his exit with Neville's entrance with the pyro and stuff. And he'd come out to tell TJP he had some bad news. And then TJP was like, alright, well, let's go to talk to Kurt together. And then Neville would proceed to beat TJP up, finding out that we have a match on 205 Live for the championship tomorrow night. Next segment, we got to see the Golden Productions of Goldust here. And the only thing I got from that is that he said he sees the big picture. So I really didn't care for that. The next segment was Banks, Mickey, and Dana Brooke all in the back. Sasha would end up leaving when Alexa Bliss came in. Alexa said that they should stand together against Nia Jax. Dana said, we don't have a Nia Jax problem. You have a Nia Jax problem. And then only Bliss was the one that had that problem. And then Mickey said that they would go out and watch Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax later on the evening. So that was a little bit of an interesting little segment too. And then we had the Kurt Angle segment again, where Kate Graves off commentary to have a little conversation with him. And like a genius, Corey Graves plays it to perfection here. And when he comes back, Cole was like, what was that all about, Graves? And Graves like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. It was Kalisto's music. It's too loud. And then Michael Cole forgot about it. I thought that was a perfection way right there to get out of it. And then we got to see Angle on the phone in the back. And he said it had a private matter. And then he left. And when he left, Dean Ambrose walked back in. Then we got to see Kalisto versus Titus O'Neil, because I was watching this match on the back. because he was supposed to be part of the Titus brand. Kalisto would get the revenge here by pulling the cheap win by grabbing hold of the trunks of Titus O'Neil after Titus O'Neil was trying to grab the trunks of Kalisto, but he was too powerful for it. Nobody cares about this feud. Then we had The Miz walking in the back, and he raises an eyebrow, and we get to see that Big Cass has now been beaten up. And then Cass hands Enzo some chains. Now, I don't know if it's like something deep or different, but I think those are actually Cass's chains here. I think Cass beat himself up and just acted like he got beat up. He became he had ice on him and he had his whole shoulder taped up after that, but Enzo was saying that Cass would be good enough to fight Gallows and Anderson, but then they wouldn't let him. Then we had the Miz celebration here. I don't know what Marie said, but she was talking French at the beginning, welcoming us to the Miz celebration. I'd like to point out they had a bear in the background. I, along with a lot of other people, I think, thought that the bear was Dean Ambrose here. She went, and then the Miz would be introduced here. Miz would play a good heel, the good role of the heel here. And when they were chanting, "You deserve it," he was like, "Yeah, you say that to everybody that wins." And he was ready to kick off the comeback tour. He exiled Dean Ambrose and restored the IC championship to its old heights. Maurice said he was like, "I like the mascot idea, Maurice." And then she was like, "I didn't get the bear." He was like, "Well, I didn't get the bear." So he beat up the bear, and it was not he had a skull crushing finale on the bear too. And then there was a gift that came out for the Miz from Maurice, but the Miz beat up the gift too by grabbing a steel chair at ringside, and then he proceeded to take out the gift. It was a grandfather clock, leading Maurice to run to the back crying. And then a cameraman was in the ring here after the Miz was blaming Dean Ambrose, and of course the cameraman was Dean Ambrose, where he would hit dirty deeds onto the Miz. Then we had a match here where Enzo and his mystery partner would fight Gallows and Anderson. Enzo's partner, he said he called a favor from a certain 7-foot-tall wrestler, and it was the Big Show. The Big Show took a while to speak here, and then Enzo would play it off like, are you trying to join 205 Live? I mean, you're getting pretty slim here. And then Enzo said something really great that I loved. "Well, I'm not going to be on 205 Live because I'm 206, so Big Show, you're in the ring with a heavyweight." So that was kind of funny, which I do think if Enzo and Cass break up, Enzo would most likely be placed on 205 Live because there's no reason he should be on anything else. I think that's a little teaser there to say that Enzo's going to 205 Live. And whoever had the idea to put Big Show on the mic, please never take that idea again. He sounded terrible on the mic. He did the soft thing that Cass usually does, SAWFT soft. Big Show would take down Anderson here after being tagged in from Enzo here. And then he would pick Enzo up and throw him, like actually throw him at Anderson for the win. Then there's a backstage segment following where Cass blamed Big Show for the recent attacks, saying, like, "You just showed up. You were just randomly on hand whenever Enzo needed a call for you." So, and then Big Show was like, "I don't creep. I can't creep. I'm the Big Show. I'm like huge." Then we had the R-Truth take on the Goldust segment. He said Goldie can't handle the truth. The truth segment was pretty funny. I think it was basically the same exact segment as last week, but I really liked R-Truth saying, "You gonna get got." That was great. We had Bliss being interviewed, and then they asked her if she had any regrets regarding Nia Jax, and she regrets coming to Raw. She says how they treat her, referring to the women's division here. They treat her like she's nothing. When we all know, really, the thing that she's being treated crap by is creative. Creative has been terribly booking everybody here, so it's not the locker room. We all know it's actually creative. Don't try to fool us creative by blaming the locker room. No, it's creative. Then we had the Bliss Jax moment here where Jax would try to get it started off. Bliss would hide in the ropes. Mickey and Dana would come on out. Nia Jax would get some control for a little bit. Bliss would exit the ring. She would shove Mickey and Dana, that resulting in Mickey to hit back, allowing Nia Jax to be disqualified, and Bliss is your winner by disqualification. And then Bliss ran away from Nia Jax, and then Nia Jax would proceed to beat Mickey and Dana up. Next segment here, we had Heyman in the medical room here getting a call from his client, the advocate, which he is of, Brock Lesnar. He says that Brock needs to show up on Monday Night Raw next week to show Joe a lesson. So at the moment, it looks like next week we will be seeing Brock Lesnar. And then the last segment of the show here, we had Joe and Rollins. The match started with Joe tossing the towel at Seth Rollins, proceeding to beat Seth up a little bit. He'd gain some momentum. And then they went out to the outside, and Joe would hit Seth with a kick to the head here. He beat Seth up on the outside for a little bit longer. Joe would have control for a lot of the match here, actually. And then Seth would have a series of high-flying moves leading to a near count on Joe, where Joe would try for the Coquina Clutch, would fail, convert it, and then Rollins would convert it into a Falcon Arrow here for a near count. Seth would then have Joe kick out, and he'd have a kick in the face to Joe, and then you hear the Wyatt little music crap where the lights would turn off, and there was no Wyatt. Instead, we saw Seth Rollins being locked into a Coquina Clutch for the victory of Samoa Joe. Thank you guys for watching. It's been your boy Gamers Goon. Make sure you click that red sub button. Make sure you click the thumbs up. Make sure you ring that bell. Make sure you leave a comment on your reaction to the June 5th episode of Monday Night Raw. It's been your boy Gamers Goon. I'm out.